So, amid Nigeria's numerous grinding concerns and all the grim news from virtually every corner of the country, and with the economy continuing to shrivel, a constant drumbeat of promises from the presidential candidates. As they make promises to keep us safe, there are stark warnings of more terror attacks to come, even as people continue to live with banditry, kidnappings, or some other catastrophe that's currently dominating the news, like massive floods. All these, along with the economy, are on top of the minds of many voters. But as the presidential candidates unveil their manifestos and promise a largely disbelieving electorate that they'll step up the fight against crime, as well as crack down on poverty and a host of other problems, including rebuilding the economy, Nigerians are bracing themselves for yet more crises, bearing in mind years of scandalously false repeated promises from the same politicians and their parties. So which of the frontline presidential candidates can truly give confidence to the populace of a better future? Well, to get one party's perspective on this, I'm joined now in the studio by the Minister of State for Labour and Employment, Festus Keyamo, who's also the chief spokesperson of the APC Presidential Campaign Council. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you, Charles, for inviting me.
We know you're a busy man, so we appreciate the time that you've taken to talk to us. Let's start with the APC Tinubu presidential campaign. Now that the campaign council has been inaugurated and the manifesto launched, what's next? Presumably the campaign itself will kick off, but it's not clear yet when or where that'll happen.
Yes, it's not clear yet because no definite decision has been taken on that. You also have to take into consideration that our candidate is going around the country trying to commiserate with those who have experienced one mishap or the other, especially the flood mishap.
You mean he's been to Kano?
He's been to even Jigawa a month ago. Right. People forgot that he started this tour, not even any other candidate.
Because the impression people have is that he hasn't been seen really out there in the thick of it.
Well, he went to Jigawa, if you remember, about a month ago. This flood started about a month ago, and he was the first to react. It's just that he did not politicize it. But if you check the news about a month ago, you said that he went to Jigawa and donated about 50 million naira to the flood victims of Jigawa. So he has shown empathy all along, on this issue. And a couple of days ago, he was also in Kano. So I think we want to get over all of this first and then ensure that we set sail as soon as possible.
Right. Well, we'll come back to the issues of the day, including the floods. But President Buhari has asked some of his team not to be part of the campaign council, but to face governance in the country. I mean, you are Minister of State for Labour and Employment, but you're also a spokesman for the APC Campaign Council. Isn't your work as minister suffering as a result? I mean, you are in effect abandoning your duties as minister, aren't you?
Absolutely not. I think the president was also misquoted, maybe out of context. He just said, don't abandon this for this, okay? Don't give full-time attention to the campaign.
But you're giving full-time attention to the campaign, aren't you?
Oh, well, I'm here in the evening now. Throughout the day, I was in my office as minister.
Right.
So I can always give my spare time to the campaign.
Well, you're a hard-working bloke, aren't you?
Oh, well, I'm used to multitasking, right from the days of school. But really, there are people that the president has said, look, just stay and face governance, like the vice president, like the secretary of government of the federation. They said, look, the president said, I'll be leading the campaign myself. So some people will have to face governance too. In my ministry, we have two ministers too. And in my case in particular, it was President Buhari, if you remember, that approved my involvement in the campaigns. They actually took my name to him, the candidate himself, the national chairman, the vice presidential candidate. They presented my name to him, and he felt he could give me some brief.
They said they want a bullish spokesman, did they?
Oh, well, I'm not bullish, am I?
Well, I mean, not in necessarily a derogatory way, but, you've got to come out with the punches.
Well, I did this before in 2019, so
yes,
I feel well
understand
the issues involved.
But I mean, I have to say that it sounds all rather a bit confusing. I mean, because whilst the president warned senior government officials not to abandon their duties for election campaigns and said that everyone, including himself, must focus on the discharge of their duties, he then turns around and says that he will be at the forefront of the APC campaign.
Well, don't forget that we also have a duty to our party. I mean, we rode to power on this party. So we have some kind of duty. I think the thrust of what he said is that you just need to find a balance. You don't abandon one for the other, especially governance, which is actually the prime duty.
Yeah, it's the key, isn't it?
The key, the mandate that we got from the Nigerian people. Every month they take some money from our salaries, and they pay check-up dues or so to our party.
Right.
So we have a responsibility to that party, and the party is the vehicle in Nigeria upon which people ride to power. So it's also a way to give our scorecard to the Nigerian people if we participate somehow in the campaigns. I mean, you can tell everybody in government to shy away from campaigns, because if you do so, that means you are shying away from giving your report card to the Nigerian people.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
The most important thing, therefore, is to find a balance. Find a balance to ensure that you don't abandon your prime duty, the one that Nigerians elected you for, which is governance, and then abandon it entirely for campaigns. I think it's just to find a balance.
And of course, your particular ministry is a crucial one, isn't it? I mean, labor and employment.
Absolutely.
And employment has been skyrocketing, hasn't it?
It's atrocious. I agree. 33%. And for that,
well, it's got worse under your government.
Compounded by the COVID-19 pandemic, because before then it was 23%. So it went up a notch higher, about 10% after the COVID-19 pandemic. The real question, is that what are you doing?
Yeah,
how many jobs are you creating?
Yes, that is the question.
What has Asiwaju planned to do? We're not
talking about Asiwaju yet. We're talking about your government that's had 8 years to bring down unemployment and to lay the foundation for whoever comes to take over afterwards. I mean, unemployment has got dramatically worse, and that is connected to things like insecurity and so on, because the more people are unemployed, the more insecure the country becomes.
Yes, we can spend the whole day here talking about that, the initiatives we have done. But you see, in the campaign season, really, and I will tell you a bit, so I'm not running away from it, just be sure of that. In the campaign season, the focus is on the future. What the person coming to do, especially, you are going to have the same party, most likely, but if my candidate wins, you are going to have a different personnel. And all over the world, even if it's the same party, the same platform, you must admit that a different personnel at times bring a different shade of character into governance.
Yes,
but let me come back to...
I agree. The reason people vote governments out is because of the track record they have. We haven't seen the future, so we don't know what your candidate is going to do.
No, but he has...
Well, we've seen what your party has done.
He has a track record to depend on too.
Yeah, but so does your party.
Yes, but
for the last 8 years...
But as a person, he has a track record. So he's not coming on a record of tabula rasa.
Right.
He has something. I say, in this election, what we are always pushing to the Nigerian people is that we are campaigning based on comparative analysis. Nobody can provide utopia. That is the truth. Well, I will sit down here and say we can provide utopia. Okay? Have we done 100% since we came? I cannot say we've done that.
Well, 100% would be a very, ambitious
as
number, wouldn't it?
Has any government since 1960 done 100%? That is not true. Have we scored 0%? Absolutely not. If we leave power tomorrow, will people look back and say we did absolutely nothing? That would be, I mean, crazy. Nobody would say that we did absolutely nothing. But you see,
well,
so
absolutely
it's
nothing
very easy.
is a pretty low bar, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but then,
we're not expecting you to do absolutely nothing. We're expecting you to do a heck of a lot more than absolutely nothing.
But then the impression created at times out there, especially by opposition, parroted by a few people is that, oh, we did absolutely nothing. But then, if with hindsight, if the government exists, because actually all over the world, there's no government that is judged on the present in real terms. Normally, it is posterity that looks back and properly situates a government, in most cases. Because at the present, even no matter how good you are, people just get tired of seeing your face in government. It's natural. They just want a change of personnel, even with the same party. And that is why you can see that constitutionally, people have term limits, because they just want you to do your bit and just get out of the same. So you may elect the same party, but just different personnel. People just want to see different ideas.
Okay, let's be fair and look forward a little bit, and then we'll look back again.
Right.
Let's look at your manifesto, which you've just brought out. You're a Minister of Labour and Employment. You've admitted that you have not really made a significant difference in that direction. Maybe not necessarily through your own fault, because there were lots of issues that came up, COVID and all the rest of them. What is your candidate planning to do about employment, given how bad it is at the moment?
Now, the first thing he plans to do is to ramp up revenues. The major problem we face is the shortfall of revenues. And I think all the conversations around the economy now with all the other candidates, we have all virtually agreed on one point, that we have to ramp up revenues. I mean, ramping up revenues, we have to look again at the subsidy regime. So everybody, all the candidates, have all looked at the subsidy regime and said we need to do something about it.
Yes.
And one significant point I want to raise here about the subsidy regime, before I quickly go to the other issues, where we have to raise revenues, is that I want to appeal to you, appeal to the public, appeal to everybody, and I want to make it, very clear in this program now, that Labour has said, Labour unions have said they are supporting the Labour Party. Get my argument? The Labour Party candidate goes around saying he will remove subsidy. I raised the issue 1 month ago, nobody followed up from there. The press did not follow up from there. So it's very significant looking into the future. Is there a policy somersault on the part of Labour? Because they are supporting a candidate that says they will remove subsidy. So if they do support him, and if he loses, and another candidate like an Asiwaju and Atiku, just want to be fair to anybody, now says we are removing subsidy. Question, will the Labour Union have any moral rights to take up arms against any other candidate who wins?
Right, that's a very good point.
Do you understand?
But
they must come out openly. Not only them, the Labour Party and the Labour Union must jointly address Nigerians as to whether they have both agreed on the removal of subsidy. And if they have not agreed, what are they doing with supporting the Labour Party candidates? But moving on, I want to quickly move on.
Yeah, but let me just, because they are not here, so we need to...
Yeah, they must come and address Nigerians.
Yeah, but the point that they have made consistently, and I don't speak for them, but I'm aware of the points they've made, is that they don't have any problem with the removal of subsidy. They have a problem with the way it has been run and the fact that if it is removed because of corruption and so on, they do not trust what will happen to the proceeds of that. That's always been their issue. So they've always argued that if you have a credible government, that they would support things like that.
I spoke with the president of the Labour Union a month ago. I have his text to me, I have his release to me. He said they are opposed to it.
Yeah, but he was talking about it in the context of your party, the APC, and your government.
No, he did not say so in that context. No, he didn't say so.
Well, let's not get bogged down with it. So just let's move on to other things.
I just want to raise that issue to ensure that I want you guys to stay on that issue.
Yeah, no. We will raise it.
Press them to get.
We will certainly raise it with them, but let's move on to other things.
On that now. We also need to expand the economy. Beyond a mono economy. Now, this government has started to do that.
Well, I was going to ask you, why hasn't your government done that?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
You've been there for almost 8 years.
We just wait now.
Right, okay.
You can see that we have started to do that. In the last GDP, our GDP has gone up 3.5%. So our GDP is on an upward trajectory right now, not a downward spiral. Upward trajectory.
Yeah, but your revenue is on a downward spiral.
No, but the GDP is going up. But the revenue is that the agriculture contributed more to the GDP this time around, like has never happened before. Now we are self-sufficient in rice production. We are number 1 in Africa. We have overtaken Egypt in rice production.
Yeah, but
let me just finish.
Yeah, okay.
We have overtaken Egypt in rice production. We are exporting more now, and more monies are coming from the export of certain products like sorghum, like Keyamo, and a couple of others. So we are beginning to ramp up revenues that are non-oil, revenue, but it's not still enough.
Yeah, but
we have not tapped enough.
Yeah, I understand that, but that is cancelled out by the fact that you have enormous deficits, you have huge debts, the servicing of which already exceeds your revenue.
But then the problem is very simple. We are coming back to the square one. What is causing the debt?
No, what I'm saying is that it's cancelled, whatever it is
but we
you're
have
saying.
to remove the revenue. We have to remove subsidy because everything is going to subsidy. Revenues that we should use.
So why haven't you removed it in 8 years?
Labor union.
I like that.
So you see, we are coming back to square one. We are coming back to square one.
You remember
January
how is your candidate planning to remove it if you couldn't remove it in 8 years? How is your candidate planning to remove it?
Let me tell you this.
Yeah.
This is about the empathy of President Buhari, because the National Economic Council, made up of PDP and APC governors, they are not speaking up now because they are playing politics with the PDP governors. No, I'm saying this on air. They are the ones, along with the APC, that are pushed in the National Economic Council, recommended the removal of subsidy, PDP governors and APC, because it affects the revenues of their states. Now they are not speaking up, they are hiding. But there's an explosion if we want to remove it now, then we capitalize on it and say useless government.
So you said, why do you say Buhari didn't remove it?
Because he feels empathetic to the Nigerian people, that he needs to put some measures in place.
So Tinubu doesn't feel empathetic?
No, because between now and then, those measures will be put in place. The president has said it clearly. It's not secret again that by June next year, they will begin to phase out subsidy. But then between now and then, that is why President Buhari is not playing politics with you. Where whoever wins this election will benefit from the policies of President Buhari. And so he wants to put those policies in place.
Right.
So that the next government will just easily take off from there. Now, how the next government, works with labor to address their concerns, that will be left to the next government. Speaking for myself, you have to substantially raise wages for me. You have to raise wages, and then you have to tie the monies you are removing from subsidy. That 250 billion naira monthly, you have to tie it to specific projects.
Absolutely.
So
that's what the unions have been asking you to do.
It doesn't go to the corrupt bureaucracy again.
Absolutely.
Because the concern is that this money goes to bureaucracy again, useless bureaucracy.
Yeah, but you were saying you're fighting corruption. Why would you not give people enough confidence to believe that if you remove that subsidy, you will apply it properly?
But that's what we are saying.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is that you haven't done it so far, have you?
You mean in this government?
Yeah, you haven't done it. You've
had
8 years.
And we have not removed subsidy.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. Well, one of the reasons you're saying that you are having a pinch in revenues is because of the subsidy.
Correct.
You've had 8 years in which you've been in power, and you couldn't find a way of removing it, and you're saying that the reason you didn't do it because of the empathy that President Buhari has with the Nigerian people, but at the same time you're saying that the money is not actually going to the poor people, is it? I mean, that's always been the argument over the wisdom of having the subsidy, that it's not actually helping the people who are poor.
Yes, but that's a fact over the years. It's not only our government. It's been from Obasanjo to Yar'Adua to Jonathan. They have always been saying the same. It's just the trust deficit that's the problem. Why did people also oppose Jonathan at that time? Because people saw the flamboyant lives that people were living there, the oil minister at that time and all of that. So it was not an opposition really based on the fact that we didn't believe that it could be removed. But you cannot say that of the Spartan life of this president. You can't say that. You can't say that of ministers like us who have not driving official cars till now. Charles, I'm giving you that expo. I don't have an official car. I'm driving my personal car. I've been using that to service the nation for the past 4 years. I don't have a personal car, an official car. So we live a Spartan life. You don't live that kind of ostentatious life that the other government lived before. So there's some kind of trust. But then the president said, let us not remove it for now. Why? There are measures in place. One of the measures is that there's a process now that they want to migrate from fuel to gas. Gas-powered vehicles, buses, and they want to provide enough buses for also workers, the NLC, for them to transport their workers back and forth, in order just to cushion the effect of the removal of subsidy. Yeah. So once that transition is over, that transition is going on right now, where we can then use gas.
Okay, let me just say this, because we've got a few minutes left, and it's always fascinating talking with you. But in those few minutes we've got left, you have admitted that this election is a referendum on the APC government.
Absolutely. We are not running away from that.
Justify to us why we should vote for you.
It's very simple. The candidate himself, who presents himself to Nigeria, has a record that on comparative analysis with the other candidates, he stands tall above them. Now, why do I say it's a comparative analysis? Because you cannot take my candidate and isolate him from the others, because it's a matter of choice. It's not only my candidate that has that a referendum is on my candidate alone. You have to look at the options you have in an election. Is my candidate Jesus Christ coming? No. Is he an angel coming from heaven? No, he's not.
Well, he's certainly not a Messiah.
He's not. He's not a Messiah coming from heaven. However, on a comparative analysis with the records of the other candidates, what he has achieved in public office, what he has done over the years as a leader of his party in Lagos State, no other candidate comes close to him in terms of that record. And so it's about trust, who you can trust, who has done it before. Any other candidate who comes to quote figures from other countries, statistics from that country, simple question: why did you not do it when you were governor?
Yeah, but all the
why did you not do it when you were governor?
All the polls disagree with what you're saying. All the polls that have been done so far, both within Nigeria and internationally, suggest that there is a trust deficit with your candidate, and the person who has the trust of the Nigerian people, based on those polls, is Peter Obi, not Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Do you know when the actual poll that determines who wins?
It's the election, isn't it?
You have answered it. Thank you very much. We are waiting for that poll.
Okay. Well, on that note, I want to say that it's been absolutely brilliant talking with you again.
Thank you.
And don't stay away from us. Do come back again and talk to us. Festus Keyamo is the chief spokesperson of the APC Presidential Campaign Council, also the Director of Public Affairs, and the Minister of State under the current government for Labour and Employment. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.